Hello.
There we go. We got some audio.
Oh,
Mate.
now you're gonna have to move over a bit. Oh, I
What are you
got
both doing?
that door.
Oh, fuck it, just a metal, isn't it?
Okay. Oh, I love the hat, Richard.
Hello. Good on you, cobbers.
Evening.
I've got my emergency Scottish hat as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Your computer audio.
ooh, lovely bit of feedback there.
Why is it not coming on?
How's it going, Mike?
Yeah, not bad.
How's Nigel?
He's given up on it, so he's just going to drink the pack he's got, which isn't the pack the rest of us have got.
Oh, right, okay.
Hi, guys. How you
Yeah.
doing?
Evening.
Hello, gents.
Can you see us? Right, hang on.
Not yet, Lauren. There we go.
There we go. We can see it now.
Okay.
How's your head? Yes.
Oh, here's Nigel.
So Nigel going to be drinking tonight if it's not what we've got.
Hello, Nigel.
But he might just tackle John.
Oh.
He'd offer to switch mine out.
I don't know how many hundreds they'll be sending out.
Yeah. Well, Lawrence, when I checked my pack, I had all 5 drams, but 2 of them were the same.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So,
well, I've actually got 5 all different.
well, that's always a plus.
well done.
Well, when I stupidly ordered a pack as a member of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, thinking it was a different pack,
Yeah.
there was only 754 packs left available.
Only 700. Okay.
It's Zoom if they're all logging in tonight. Is that it?
There you go. Richard's got his pack.
Very nice, very nice.
All different and allegedly the same as on the cards.
Yes.
I was gonna say Dave's changed his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Dave's Eric.
Hmm.
Oh, using internet audio?
Yes.
Oh my God.
You look very relaxed, baby.
Beg your pardon.
On holiday somewhere.
You're going to get me into trouble. How are you?
Yeah, all good here. Thanks. All good.
Now is Mum.
Yeah, Mum's gone off for dinner tonight.
Can I just give a technical warning? When you hear that whistling, that means somebody's got 2 devices.
Yeah, well, I'm going to
shut.
shut mine down.
Oh, sorry.
Richard, I thought you were banished to the garden. How do I?
Oh dear.
No.
That doesn't work.
Is that better?
Shut mine down.
Have some more Lefroy water.
I'm drinking coloured water.
Mine's hanging.
You pick on mine off.
No, don't.
I've found that you don't have to switch it off. You just have to mute both the input and the output of the second device, and then it stops. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's got it. Whoever's done it, yeah, fine.
Yeah, I've just moved away.
Okay.
Oh.
Hi, Chris. Aidan, how many have we got on tonight?
Hey, Phil. Yeah, all good. I mean, it seems like there's been a bit of an issue from the society's end.
Oh, yeah.
We sent out all the information about 2 weeks ago now or so.
Yeah.
Thinking that'd be plenty of time, and I think they sent all the packs out Tuesday, so that's why people started getting them Wednesday, and it's just kind of, Are
some of the packs wrong then?
Yeah, I think Chris and I thought it was going to be an easy one because we thought, we'll just hand it over to the society and they'll be able to take everything on. But as you've seen, it seems like there's been some delivery issues, pack issues, everything like that. So it's just, oh God.
Bit of a headache the last week, to say the least.
Oh, that's not very good. So how many are we expecting tonight?
Should be 33, I believe, in total.
Wow, it's going to be a big session.
Yeah. I guess it's somewhat easier for people having these virtual events because, sometimes not everyone can, get into Woking on a Friday night. So, yeah, we've had good numbers consistently here.
You're not in your normal laid-back chair, Chris?
Pardon?
You're not in your normal laid-back chair?
Oh, no. My parents are out this evening, so I'm on the dining room table, not in my
You Kim? You all right?
Yeah, very well. Hoping tonight runs smoothly, so I'm sure it will. But yeah.
We've got our host here now, so.
Yeah.
Yes, guys, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I'm trying this microphone and earphones, try and make it a bit better.
Okay, loud and clear.
Yeah, you're actually really clear.
Good.
First quick question for you, John. Which drams do you think we have?
Oh no, I think it's pretty certain everybody got the right ones. Well, we'll put it this way. I told Aidan and Chris some time ago that it would be a certain pack because that's the one we were using at that time. And I still expected that pack to have arrived. We're now into this situation where we're using the gathering pack for people buying the pack for the gathering tasting on the 6th of September. So you guys will actually be the first in the world to be tasting these whiskies. How's that?
Who else?
So, I don't think these are the ones that were supposed to be sent out, but it's a lucky break for us, apart from those who don't like peat. Because there's 2 peats in there.
So he's doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, how can you not love peat?
Peat in the club, do we? Do we have any peats?
Obviously, he's right. This is Graham.
Hi, George.
Haven't seen him for a while.
Hi, George.
You now. You need to tilt the camera up a bit.
Hi.
Tilt your phone up a bit. Tilt your phone up a bit. All we can see is your chest.
Yes. He's not as bald as me, though. Look.
Yeah, sorry, I'm cleaning my glasses.
Aidan, how's the arm?
Ta-da! Out of the cast, but lots of physio. It's very weak.
Right.
I've got lots of equipment back, but when it comes to doing things, picking things up, pushing, that's when it gets a bit awkward.
Yeah. So you can no more skateboarding for a while, is that right?
yeah, no more skateboarding for a while. So, but yeah, no, it's going well. As soon as I got the cast off, kind of rung up a physio and got some stuff booked in. So that's been going relatively smoothly.
Good.
So yeah, we're now doing kind of weighted lifts and pinches and stuff like that, just to see kind of how my strength is and trying to improve it that way.
Yeah.
Did you actually do anything?
What was that, John?
What did you do?
I fell off my skateboard.
What's a skateboard?
Yeah.
I thought somebody was joking.
No. On my birthday, of all things.
All right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it a 650 or a 250?
A 650 or a 250? I don't follow, sorry.
No surprise.
Don't worry about it.
Oh.
I nearly fell out my bath chair the other day.
So, Aidan, you're going to have to lift pints as much as possible.
Oh, yeah, I've already had that joke, don't worry. I went to one of the sessions and he said, oh, you know, how have you been doing? Have you been, you know, picking up weights and stuff like that? And I said, I've been doing lots of this. And he went, oh, yeah, good stuff. So, you know, it turned into a bit of a joke, but actually he said it's probably a good exercise because the way that my hand was in the cast, it was kind of just lying limp, but kind of drinking a pint, I'm lifting the whole wrist. So he says, actually, you know, to be honest, it's probably a good exercise. So, you know.
So you followed his advice.
Yes, yeah. Very much so. I told him that a can of lager is fine, but a bottle of cider was too much. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder. Hang on. Oh,
Is
two.
Is Tony joining?
Well, Tony will be at home swearing at the computer.
Speak of the devil, he's just popped up.
Oh, brilliant.
That was good timing.
I think we're still waiting.
Oh, there he is.
Hi, Tony.
There we go. A few more.
Still
Hi,
clicking
Nige.
buttons. Now Tony can talk to us.
Evening.
Evening.
Tony.
Hi, Tony. How are we doing? All right.
All good, thanks. How are you?
Tony.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
23. Yeah, we're still missing a few. Who are we missing? Andrew, Tony. What should we say? Call it past and maybe we'll think about getting started?
Yeah.
Or should we wait for more people?
Nah, get started.
Let's open them.
Sorry. There you go. There you go.
You got we muted?
No.
Hey, Nige, I think you got the wrong pack.
Yeah.
Anybody got the wrong pack?
You know I've got the wrong pack. So I'm just going to work my way through the other pack that I've got instead.
So what pack
And
did you get then?
I can heckle. Sorry?
What pack did you get?
I got the pack that Tony gave me the other day. John, what distillery is 135?
That's it's Loch Lomond.
Inchmine.
So it's one of the three Loch Lomond numbers.
All right.
So what ones have you got then?
You have to open that one if you want to open the other one.
Right. 7, 58, 112, 122, 135.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
John, I actually bought those packs.
That's what I said about that.
So I think Nige just didn't get a delivery. Yeah, I
didn't get my delivery. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because those were the whiskies I did a tasting with last week.
I'll tell you what I think of last week's tasting then, John, later on.
Yeah. I think you probably feel the same as me. I was in the middle of it.
Okay. Right. Anyway, no dramas. I suspect I shall wash a few down, so we'll be okay.
Okay. Does anybody else not have the gathering pack tonight then?
Well, there's nothing on the box that tells you what the pack is. You just got to guess.
No, on the little bottles. On the little bottles, it'll say gathering on it. Global gathering.
On the bottles, yes, sorry.
Global gathering.
Global gathering. Yeah.
Has anybody not got, apart from Nigel and Tony? Is anybody?
No, I've got mine.
You got yours, Tony. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're the only one, Nigel, are you?
Yeah, Nigel didn't get a delivery.
Right. Okay.
No, I didn't get delivery. They decided I needed my Woking shirt more importantly than I needed these.
Okay. That's a bugger.
So if Neil is extra smiley at the end of the night, you might have a sneaking suspicion where your delivery
Neil
went.
tells me he hasn't got them.
Yeah, we'll see.
No. Not that I can see.
Hey, Nigel, the least he can do is hand him over the fence when he's had a shot.
If he lived on the other side, he'd be able to walk straight through. There's no fence left.
Oh, okay. Was that today?
Falling down?
I've got one of those as well.
Must have been that curry.
I did think about being generous to Nigel, but it's just too far to walk, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I saw that DPD driver later on. He was a bit pissed. Now I know why.
Right, John, do you want to make a start?
Yeah, sure, Chris.
Well,
welcome, guys. Good to see you all, even if it's virtual. You know, it's been a long time since the last live Sassenachs tasting, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose some of you guys are managing to get together now in some of the bars in Woking. I've been able to get up to SMWS London because they were open Monday to Friday just a few weeks ago, but the footfall was so low that they've closed again on Mondays and Tuesdays. They're only open Wednesday to Friday, but at least it's the start of something, with a bit of luck. Tonight, there was a pack which we were going to let you all have a couple of months ago when we first started talking about this. But with things moving on time-wise, the pack that you've got is the pack that we're now sending out for people around the world who are buying it in advance of what we're calling the gathering tasting in the first week in September. Now, what we do every September is we have a gathering, a live gathering at the vaults, but we've also been doing virtual tastings on the gathering pre-COVID. So this time we're going to continue with the gathering, but it's going to be more virtual than real for obvious reasons, especially when people can't come from abroad. And this pack has been sorted specially for that tasting. So everybody who's got it so far will actually be holding it until they get to September the 6th. I think the virtual tasting will be. You guys, quite frankly, might be the first in the world to taste these whiskies. And there is a little surprise in here. And those of you who have read the tasting notes might have already sussed that. There's something a bit strange from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society single cask, single malt portfolio. But anyway, so I know that some of you are members. I know that some of you know a lot about SMWS, and I suspect some of you don't know as much as you might like to know. And all I can say is let me invite you to ask me any questions as we go through, and I'll be happy to answer them. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the Scotch Malt Whisky Society and bore the backside of the people who are members and who already know a lot about it. But basically, we started in 1983 and we do single cask, single malt. That's what it's all about, you know.
Jake? Yeah.
Sorry?
How do I get the sound?
Sorry?
I think that's Martin trying to get Tina to help him sort his sound out.
All right, okay. Okay.
He's calling for help, John.
Right, okay. Might be calling for more help in 5 drams time. But anyway, yeah, but so the society's changed a lot over the years. In recent years, we've did single grain whiskey. There was a news before on Filtered, which is our members magazine. There used to be a newsletter for members, and our founder Pip Hills used to invite members to ask questions in letter form and print them in a newsletter. And many years ago, someone wrote in and said, "Pip, can I ask, why don't we bottle single grain whiskey?" And Pip said, "Well, Mr. Andrews from Stirling, the reason we don't bottle single grain whiskey is exactly the same reason we don't bottle bleach." So how things have changed in the intervening years. Pip is still alive and well and kind of laughs about that. But we've also did whiskey from other countries. We've did single grain, as I said. We've did cognac, armagnac, rums. We've even done blended malts in the last couple of years, which is not what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Something a little bit different tonight. But anyway, so tonight I'm pleased to say that it's all Scotch. In the last few years, we've bottled from America, Ireland, Japan, Taiwan, Wales, Denmark, Sweden, and even England. But tonight it's all Scotch. The famous man Michael Jackson, not that one, the whiskey writer, he once said, "The best Scotch whiskies taste of the mountain heather, the peat and the seaweed, the taste of Scotland." There you are. So we're going to be tasting 5 Scotch. Now, let me tell you this. There's a great thing you can watch on the web. It's called The Myth and the Magic. Look it up and see if you can get hold of it. It lasts an hour, but you can get a 13-minute preview of it on the web. And if you like it, you can try and buy the DVD. But it's about 15 years old. And it talks about Scotch whisky, how it is made, where the flavour comes from, and all of that. And the upshot of that particular DVD is, quite frankly, the scientists cannot tell you. There's so much they know now, but more than 50% they just don't know. It's a myth and it's magic, you know. So when you hear certain things being said, scientists will tell you it's probably nonsense, you know. There's so much they don't know, and the flavours are still really an open book, you know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. The main thing to remember is this: when you hear somebody saying, whether it be a very, very well-known name in whiskey or not, that 60 or 70% of the flavour comes from the cask, that's just guesswork. No one actually can prove that. A lot of the flavour, which is already in the spirit, the new make spirit, gets worked on by the cask and changed and altered. There's not a lot of flavour gets added. It's the changes in the cask that make the difference. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Okay, so we're looking, when we're tasting a whiskey, what we're looking to try and do is establish what we think the new make spirit is, that distillery, and how the cask has changed it. When the Scotch Malt Whisky Society get the spirit and we cask it, we then work with it over years to try and create certain flavours. And if you look at this one here, for example, this first one, 26145. I'm not supposed to say the full names of the distilleries. It's a little quirk of the SMWS. So it starts with Klein and ends with Leash. Okay, and it comes from the northeast coast of Scotland, and it's known as a kind of waxy, robust spirit, you know. But over the last 20 casks we've bottled, we've created 9 different flavour profiles out of 12 in total for this distillery spirit. So the only ones that haven't appeared are the 3 peated flavour profiles: peated, lightly peated, peated, and heavily peated. All of the other flavours have been created. So when you go to buy whiskey at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, look at the flavour profile. It might be a distillery which you don't particularly fancy in its proprietary version, but you might actually like the single cask, single malt, you know. Now, what we'll decide to do tonight is because there's a few non-peaty fans in the Sassenachs, and I knew one of them was Nigel. So I was going to try and spare you guys the ordeal of having the two peaty ones at the end. So I said, let's have one of the peaty ones second and one of the peaty ones fifth. And after a chat with Aidan today, what we've decided is we're going to have the peaty one just before the beer break. Okay? So in the order you're looking at on your tasting notes, if you've got them there, we're going to switch number 10, 195 for number 7, 243. So after 26, we're going to 7, 243. Okay? So let's go on to some whiskey. Let's see what we think. Now remember, everybody, for those who may not know, it's all cask strength. So this one is 58%. Okay? 58%. So it's going to be and it's a second fill bourbon barrel, 8 years old. Okay.
Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Which one are you starting with?
26.
Okay, thank you.
26145. Okay. This was distilled on the 19th of September 2011. I can tell you the exact date because, of course, it's single cask. Okay. All the other proprietary bottles are a mix of casks from different times. Only 239 bottles ever.
Sorry, John, stepped away for a second. Which one are we starting on?
26145.
Cheers.
Now you notice that because the tasting panel probably knew that it was that distillery starting with Klein and ending with Leash, they had one of the first tasting notes here is waxy. Okay, everybody says Klein Leash is waxy, and it became a bit of a legend about that. And they reckon because a greasy substance formed in the low wines and faints receiver, which they didn't clean all the time, there was a waxiness in the spirit. And some scientists have said, oh, that was just nonsense, you know. No one actually knows where that waxiness comes from. But then they did clean it, and they tried to distill some spirit, and it was slightly different. So maybe it was that after all. There was a lot of guesswork involved. But just let's enjoy the whiskey. If anybody fancies saying what they think they got, just give us a shout.
I think I've got a good dram.
I think it's definitely waxy on the palate and an immediate spiciness there, particularly at the back of the throat. The panel said the taste was sweet and zesty. I ain't getting sweet.
No, me neither.
No, no.
Oh, yeah.
Remember this, guys, because of whiskey ambassadors are the sort of blokes who come along to your tastings at the Sassenachs. They tell you everybody's got a different nose. It's all very personal and individual for each person. And then they tell you what you should taste. So just remember that some people might get different things. There are two aspects to this. There's what you get in the aroma, which is 90% of it, in your orthonasal and your retronasal cavities. There's the actual flavour itself, and you can try to work these, but some people might get something which is very personal to them because the aroma takes them back to some time, a moment in time in their life, and reminds them of it quite strongly. Which is why you sometimes get tasting notes like Granny's kitchen at Christmas and all that kind of stuff.
Sherbet lemons on the nose. I've got.
Okay, good.
Definitely very lemony on the nose. Yeah.
We're both getting quite a lot of sweetness. That was the first thing we said, actually.
Yeah, I was getting sweetness.
Yeah, same here.
A few drops of water really helps open it out, actually.
Yeah.
Definitely. Water always helps.
Is anybody a fan of this distillery's normal bottlings?
No.
No.
I am.
I am.
Who's that? Lawrence. What do you make of this one in comparison, Lawrence?
That was me, John.
Oh, sorry, Mike, sorry.
No, Tony.
Tony, for goodness sake. I can't see you all, sorry. What do you make of it, Tony?
Oh, it's a beautiful dram. Absolutely beautiful dram.
Yeah.
I agree, Charlie.
It's certainly a bit better with a taste, a smidgen of water, I found.
Yeah.
Well, you
It
can't
does
get
open it
complexity at 58.
opens it up a little bit, that's for sure.
I think that water definitely does make a difference, and I think a bit of sweetness is coming through now. And I think the spiciness at the back has kind of disappeared too.
It has, yeah. I was going to say, I'm actually getting a little bit of that lemon
Yeah.
sweetness thing there now.
Somebody on the panel said it was like smoking a cigar outside a florist. No, I'm not getting a cigar, I'm afraid.
No, me neither.
I've never smoked one, so how can I tell?
Exactly.
I think with the water and the sweetness really comes through quite strongly, actually.
I think that's right, Rob.
And the lemon. Yeah.
I think it's lost a bit of its waxiness with the water as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a little bit of ginger in there.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Yeah.
I think that it's funny because the ginger seems to come and then go sweet again.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I prefer the spicy bit at the back of the throat. That's nice.
Yeah. I thought that diminished a little bit though with the water.
Yeah, I haven't tried it with the water.
Okay. Well, let me tell you guys, what do some people say? You tell you what, if you ever drink with a Scandinavian, they're just ridiculous. They'll just say, never put any water in your whiskey, it's ridiculous. They've matured it all this time and people put water in it. Well, don't listen to it. Always try it with a little bit of water because you just do not know what is going to happen there, you know. Sometimes tough if you've only got one glass of whiskey and you put water in it and think you've spoiled it for yourself. If you've got a bottle at home, you can drink the rest neat. Yeah?
Exactly right. Exactly.
Not in the same evening.
This is actually cask strength. A lot of the whiskey they'd actually drink is knocked down anyway.
Yeah.
So it's got water in it.
Yeah.
I don't know, every Scandinavian I've ever met can drink like there's no tomorrow. You don't want to try and keep up with the Scandinavian.
I know, it's incredible. In Scotland, we have a phrase, guys, this is important. Listen to this. In Scotland, we say, always put a little water in your whiskey, but always put a little whiskey in your water.
Very nice.
Yeah, the reduced palate, according to the panel, muted citrus, mouth-puckering acid, Haribo, and fudge with tingling spearmint, fisherman's friends. Yeah, I would get the fisherman's friends.
Yeah, I'll
I
get
the
that.
fisherman's friends. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. So I like to ask as we go along, which whiskey you preferred. So far, who prefers number one?
It's the best whiskey I've had in the last 10 minutes.
See, I think here what we're talking about is I think there's a lot of distillery character still in this.
There is, yeah.
And if it's only 8 years old, it's a second fill bourbon barrel, so it's not getting so much wood. Then that's bound to be the case. So if we tasted an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 26 from a second fill bourbon barrel, we'd see a remarkable difference, you know.
I've got the Clonelish 14, and I think this actually compares really favourably with the current the 14.
Sure. Okay.
I would agree with that, Rob.
Yeah, that's the standard.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think it's what our guys are doing, of course, is that they are the Spirits team will be tasting the whiskey constantly. If they think it's ready, they will refer it to the tasting panel. Everything has to be approved by the tasting panel. If the tasting panel think it's good enough, then they'll agree to bottle it. a lot of the stuff gets sent back, you know, and maybe comes back another year, you know, or maybe the tasting pal will recommend that they finish it in something else. Maybe that will happen too, you know. So you can get maybe there's whiskies here that have been in secondary casks that maybe came to the tasting panel in the first cask, and the tasting panel said, no, you can maybe do something a bit more with that, and they've tried that, and maybe something's worked out to the benefit, you know. So that's good. Do you want to move on to number 2?
Yep.
I'd say well, the number 2, remember guys, it's number 7 we're going to now. Okay? Number 7.
Number 2 is number 7.
Number 2 is number 7, yes.
Ah, okay.
Sounds as if I'm Irish, don't I?
It's like a code breaker.
Yeah, that's right. Number 2 is number 7.243. Now, as I said to you, I can't tell you, those of you who don't know the distillery, I can't actually tell you what the distillery is, but it starts with long and ends with morn. Yeah? Now, this is an interesting distillery because a certain man called Masataka Taketsuru worked at this distillery after the First World War. He came to Scotland from Japan and studied chemistry at Glasgow University. Decided he wanted to go back and build a whiskey distillery, so he worked at Longmorn for a while to learn his trade, and a couple of others too. And when he went back, Masataka, who's known as the father of Japanese whiskey, he married a girl from Kirkcudbright near Glasgow, who's known as the mother of Japanese whiskey, and they eventually built Yoichi. Now, Yoichi Distillery is sometimes said to be a carbon copy of Longmorn, because when he built it, he based it on his learnings at Longmorn. I was at Yoichi last November. It's not true. It might have been at the beginning, but it's changed now, you know. But remember this, the Japanese, it's probably some of you like Japanese whiskey, and you kind of have to be careful what you're drinking because they don't have the rules that we have. So some Japanese whiskey is not actually Japanese whiskey at all. In fact, Dave Broom, the whiskey author, he was on a documentary on whiskey a few years ago, and he said, there is no doubt, he said, that the Japanese make the best Japanese whiskey in the world. So I say that. So Masataka learned his trade in Scotland and went back home after having. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you this. Say this. When I was in Yoichi, I was getting toured round by the brand ambassador. Right. Masataka and Rita, who's his Scottish wife, used to live in a house in the distillery grounds, and they've kept the house as it was, as a kind of museum. So I was toured through it, and I'm in the living room when his old bookcase is still there, as it was when he was there. And guess what was in the bookcase? Mein Kampf.
Was it bookmarked at any particular places? Did you?
Yeah, good one, Richard. Yeah. I can only assume he bought it before the author had done what he subsequently went on to do, you know. Okay, so now this one, let me tell you about this, guys. This is the one which you might discover is very, very unusual because this one is two bourbon barrels. Two bourbon barrels. Both emptied into a sherry cask, a PX butt. Now, you'll read more about it as we move up to the gathering, but some people say we have never ever done that before. That's a first for the society. The same as some people said in the last few years, you're doing some extra maturation, some finishing. You never did that before. Well, we did. 1991, we started that program. But people think it's only the last few years. So what we're going to be able to tell you this couple of weeks is that we have done this kind of thing before. Not very often. Pip Hills, remember when we started out, single malt was not the phenomenon it is now then. Single cask, single malt was very rare. People didn't understand it the way they do now. And Pip Pip and the tasting panel, way back in the late 80s, decided that there was some cask coming to them from the same distillery, usually distilled on the same day, which they couldn't really tell the flavours apart in. So they decided that they would just bottle them as a sequence under the same name and tasting note. Again, how things have moved on. But what we've done here is we've taken 2 barrels and we've put them into a sherry butt to get the flavours that we were looking for here. And what we've got is a deep, rich and dried fruit flavour profile.
Very toffee-ish.
Yes. Look at the colour as well. That colour will mainly have come from the butt, you know. It was 50, it's only been 1 year in the butt, maybe just over a year.
Christmas pudding.
Yeah, Christmas pudding.
On the nose.
Shoe polish.
Yeah, all of that.
Nice whiskey.
Now, this is another thing that's interesting. This is 59.8%, right? Now, if I only had a glass of this, I'd be kind of low. I only have got a glass of it, actually. I'd be kind of loath but water in it, because I think it's lovely.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put water anywhere near it.
Whereas that first
drop
one,
in, it's very nice.
whereas that first one at 58% was crying out for water, in my opinion. So it just shows you sometimes a 59% can be as smooth as silk, and a 52% feels as if it needs water in it, you know. So let me know if anybody tries it with water. I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, I tried it with water. It's still very nice.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to say I might try it, John, because I've mistakenly bought a pack as well for the virtual tasting.
All right, okay, okay. Well done, mate. Well done, mate.
So, John, which one are we tasting now?
We're on number 7.
Number 7.
7.243.
Now you need to start.
Yeah, 7.243. Yeah, got it.
Now, lads, you need to start paying attention, or I'll move you to the front of the class.
Okay, but John, I thought we were on number 2.
What attention is me hearing?
Now, another thing that's fascinating, guys, when you look at some of these bottlings, is that how much you get out of the cask, because every cask is different, as we know. Some leak more than others, some lose more than others, depending on where they are in a warehouse, what the climate has been, and all that. Now look at this. This is 396 bottles, which is a terrible outturn for a sherry butt. But remember, it was 2 bourbon casks that were in there. So what we're saying is 2 bourbon casks, which together accounted for 400 bottles, which is kind of average. But what it also means, though, is that in that year and a bit, because there was 2 bourbon casks put in there that only produced that, then there's a lot of wood contact. So you're going to get a lot of the sherry cask influence here. So what you're trying to ascertain is, can you feel the flavour of the new make spirit at Longmorn? It should be quite sweet and fruity. Can you feel the bourbon barrel effect, and then can you feel the sherry effect? You're trying to dig into all these flavours to try and help yourself understand where they're coming from.
John, you add a little bit of water and the sherry comes out even more.
But does that? I'm going to try it then. Okay.
Stunning dram.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Lawrence, there. I think it's taken on more of the sherry profile.
Okay. Okay.
If you add the water, because it masks it otherwise.
I found it amusing, John, that you started talking about the Taketsuru, was it? Because as soon as I smelled it, before you'd even said anything, I said it smells like Nikka Taketsuru.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
At least in my opinion, anyway.
Okay. Okay. That's amazing, Chris, because that's quite an astute thing there. Because remember, he's making the Japanese, when they first started making whiskey, were trying to copy Scotch.
Yeah.
And of course, Masataka was the one of them all, because he'd been in Scotland and all that. So there is a chance that the way the new make spirit is made, that there's similarities. You know, that's very interesting. When I was at Yoichi, by the way, I bought 2 bottles. I bought a few bottles, but 2 of the bottles I bought, one was called cherry and spice. The Road Distillery specials. One was called Smoke and something else. I've still got that one. Anyway, I tried the sherry and spice one. Opened it up and tried it. And I got back home and I tried it again. And then one last time, I gave it away. It was awful. It was awful. It's maybe the worst whiskey I've ever tasted. I mean, some people say, William Faulkner used to say that there's no such thing as bad whiskey. Just some whiskies are better than others. Well, I used to taste this bloody. It was awful, you know.
Hi, John. For us, it's Dram Gooish.
Dram Gooish.
Just about to say that, Lawrence.
The Dram to give away.
There's only one way to drink Dram Brewery, and that's about 9 whiskey to 1 Dram Brewery when you're really ill.
No, this was a bottle that we had when we all used to get together around each other's houses, and it was so appalling. At the end of the night, we'd gift it to the person who's doing the next round.
Is that right? Yeah.
Too much is left.
It's still going round though, Lawrence, isn't it?
I think it probably is.
I think Drumgoose is, it's even mentioned in Robin Lang's song, isn't it? Speyside Whiskey Song.
Oh.
This was distilled on the 26th of May 2003. Okay? So who can remember what we're doing on the 26th of May 2003?
Yeah, John, I've got a story for you actually.
Okay, good.
I know you love telling a good story. So, in line with Longmorn and Society, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think I must have been around 18, 19. But I went with Dad and I think Tony to the society, and we went out for the day. Stopped off at a few pubs to, on the way. Went to the society, a few more pubs on the way back, and it was a great day. But we tried a Longmorn, and it was fantastic. It was one of the best whiskies I'd ever had.
Sure.
And that was the first bottle of whiskey I'd ever bought. I left with one of the bottles, and I was like, nah, can't leave without it.
Sure, brilliant. Can you remember what that was, Aidan?
The number.
I've probably got the bottle upstairs, empty, but
Sure,
I've probably still got it.
No, I tell you what though, if you can find that number and kind of relate that story in print, I might be able to get it on the blog for you.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because what we love is these stories from members, which reflect a member's personal experience.
Yeah,
So if you do that, that'd be brilliant. Give me a shout,
I'll give you a tip, Aidan. If you can somehow weave Partick Thistle in there, John will give you a bottle.
John,
Is that Partick Thistle 0, 0, or Partick Thistle Football Club?
Now you must have heard the joke then, Richard.
I thought it was a garden centre.
It was. Remember that show Billy Connolly did years and years ago? It was for a celebrity audience. They were all showbiz people like himself, and he was talking about his early life. And he said, I grew up in Partick. He said, as a young lad in Glasgow. He said, and that's where the football team came from. They don't play there now. They play in Mary Hill, but they came from Partick. It was Partick Thistle FC. He said, I say that because most of you will know them as Partick Thistle 0.
You got me bang to right, so I stole it from Billy Connolly.
John, you mentioned Unfiltered earlier.
Yeah.
And as a member of the society, I had quite a shock with the latest edition of Unfiltered, because there was no mention and no photograph of a certain John McCheyne. And I had to go through it 3 times to make sure I hadn't missed a page.
I think the editors fell out of me or something. Anyway, by the way, it's gone digital now, Mike. You know that?
Well, I had the email saying it's gone digital, and then the post arrived, and I'm thinking, what's going on here?
That's the last one. That's the last one.
Yeah, right.
So, but apparently, he's promising we're going to have lots more input. It's going to be out regularly rather than quarterly, all that kind of stuff. So we shall see. But that's why we're looking for more content, like I've just said.
Yeah.
Creative,
Yeah.
Now, guys, I think normally I say, you know, who prefers which whiskey over which, but I just don't think you can compare these two. I think they were both so different. It'd be unfair to say prefer one against the other, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I personally like them both. Anybody got a different view?
No.
Right, because this is which one would I buy? And I think I would buy the long one. I wouldn't buy the Clownleash.
Okay. Yeah, that's normally a good measurement, isn't it? I mean, what would you actually go and buy? Yeah.
My Strathfinder was beautiful.
You're in the wrong meeting, Nigel.
Yeah.
John, on that note then, can I check? Because all of these whiskies are showing up on the website as being not available.
Yes.
So will any of these eventually be available?
Yes, they're going to be in the September.
Right.
Autumn.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. They're going to kind of be a big launch of them for this gathering week, which is the first week in September, mate. So that's where you'll be able to see them. I suspect, you know, when they'll let it go, they'll probably wait until the first Friday, I think. I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah.
I should know this, but I haven't checked
No,
yet.
that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. You know that if any of you read any whiskey books, there's a guy called David Dykes who wrote whiskey books way back in the 20, 30, 40 years ago. He was at Longbourn in 1967 doing a tour, doing a bit of chat for a book he was writing, and they gave him a Longbourn to sample, which had been distilled in 1899. And therefore it was 68 years old. This was 1967, he was there. And this guy wrote about whiskey all the time. He was a well-known, know what he said about it? He said it was quite nice. Okay, guys. Now, what we're going to do now then, okay? Who are the guys who don't like the peat anyway? I know Nigel's one of them, but...
I think Nigel used to be.
Oh, no, Nigel's been converted, has he?
He has, yeah.
I love Pete. He's my best mate, mate.
It has to be a good peachy one. I'm not a fan of it.
Right, okay.
And I've been converted and all, John.
All right, good.
Mr. Wingate's not a fan, though.
By the way, guys, I'm just going to say there, actually, sorry, that
I love it.
How successful have we been in getting some women into this club, eh? One. But I tell you something though. It's the same all over, apart from the big city clubs. So in London, there's a club with some women in it. In Glasgow, is run by women and all that. Birmingham, but generally speaking, it still tends to be the old guard like us. You know what I mean? So,
John,
there's loads of when we did the gin, we were flooded with women.
yes, we were. That's right, Lawrence, isn't it? Yeah. Isn't that a bloody strange thing, isn't it?
Yeah, John, allegedly, my wife says that I get a bit aggressive on whiskey, so it's just as well she doesn't, has it? I don't think I could handle her aggressive.
well, look, guys, I would like to tell you a story from my past. It was a woman who drove me to drink, and I didn't even have a decency to thank her.
Yeah, but did she drive you back though?
Right, guys. I'll tell you what. Number 3. Now at this point, we're going to taste this one. Then we're going to have a bit of a beer break, right? So now, Bonnet. Did I say Bonnet Haven? Oh, well, too bad. And this is back to number 2. Number 2 on the list, which is actually number 10. So number 2 is number 10, okay?
And number 3 is number 10.
Number
Yeah,
three.
number
isn't it?
3 is number 10.
Number 3 is number 10.
Yes, yes. Number 2, number 10 is now 310. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
This might do a bit of it. I am not a number.
Now, guys, have any of you ever been to Bunnahabhain? I know George has, but have any been to Bunnahabhain?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Were any of you there? And one of my favourite little pictures in my mind was still there, and that was the direction barrel at the top of the hill. Can anybody remember that?
Not exactly.
You don't.
No, remember there's a pretty sharp turn on the way down that hill.
So you came off what Isla laughingly calls the main road onto the single track path that goes over the hill to Bunnahabhain. So you drive over there and you're praying that you don't meet a distillery lorry coming the other way, you know. And you get to the top of the hill just as you drive down to the distillery, and there used to be a barrel on its side. So you just saw the end of the barrel, and it was painted white with a black arrow, and the black arrow pointed to Bunnahabhain. Great. So then you went down to the distillery, you had your tour, a couple of drinks if you weren't driving, and then you were driving back up the hill again, and you saw the other side of the barrel. And the other side of the barrel was painted white with an arrow pointing to other places.
Well, I went there during the Isle of Festival once,
and
there was a band there, the guys from Tyree, I've forgotten the name of the band, young fellas, drums.
Skippany, sure.
That's it. And they were, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I mean, there was a burger, there was whiskey. You know,
yeah, brilliant. They do put on a good show, don't they? They do put on a good show. You get the guy that I know there, and George knows him as well, David Brodie, who's the kind of the guy who runs the visitor centre and all that. What a lovely fella. And if you follow him on social media, he's always got great stuff on Twitter and all that. But it is one of it's one of the distilleries on the coast of the north coast of Islay there, which is a nice location. Not quite as beautiful to look at as Kalila, but apparently they're doing something about that. Yeah.
Cool. There's lovely mussels underneath the pier as well there. You just climb underneath the pier and help yourself to buckets of mussels.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? If you ever go to Ardbeg, Richard, they've got a big trick that they pull there, and that is they take you out to the pier and they've got a bag in the sea, and they pull out the bag and it's a bottle of Ardbeg Kelpie, and usually in the bag that got it, and some fish have managed to get in there, you know. So they bring out the boat, they give you a dram and throw the fish back in. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Nice touch. Okay, guys. So this is number 3 was 2 is 10. Okay.
Oh, it's heaven. I'm there. I'm walking down the street. Now,
I think that what was interesting about this is what I think you should do, everybody, is don't drink it all. Keep a bit so we can compare it with the last whiskey, you know?
Yeah.
It's all because if you don't compare them directly, sometimes you just think they tasted the same. Your memory will tell you they just tasted the same. So let's hold it until then. So this was distilled on the 17th of October 2013. Okay. I tell you what, guys, see this dates thing. It's amazing. I was in China last year and I'm doing this tasting, right? So there's one of the guys in the audience, I can see him in the corner of my eye, and he's flicking through this notebook madly very animatedly as I was talking to the rest of the crowd. So eventually he got my attention. I said, what is it? And he said, well, I go and visit distilleries in Scotland. He said it with a Glasgow accent. And I keep a note of the dates of my visits in this book. And I was there on the day this whiskey was distilled. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
He wanted to buy a case, but we never had a case to give him, you know. But I mean, what a magic memory for somebody, you know.
Mm.
Now, guys, this one is taken out of a bourbon hogshead and put into a heavily toasted, medium charred hogshead. Now, one of the most important things in terms of creating the flavour is what we do with that cask, you know. You know, we've got first fill, we'll get second fill, we'll get refill, bourbon and sherry. Most of the 90% of the casks in Scotland are ex-bourbon, rather than ex-sherry, for reasons that you might know, and if you don't know and want to know, ask me. But how you treat that cask, it can actually make a big difference to the flavour. So that heavy toast, medium char would do two things. Both processes help with the flavour. The charring can take away some of the off notes and the sulphury notes that occur naturally when you're making spirit. And the toasting caramelizes some of the lignin and the cellulose to give you vanilla and caramel flavours and that kind of thing. But the level of toasting and the level of charring can be important, because vanillin, for example, which gives you vanilla, will increase with light toasting, decrease with heavy toasting, and some of the other flavour compounds will react in similar ways.
So, John, what's the difference between toasting and charring then? Is toasting just heat and the other one is flame?
Yeah, that's right. Charring, you're burning the hell out of it. You can get light char and heavy char, but I mean, it means that you're creating a fire inside the cask. And if you think of, I remember our big alligator.
Yes, I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, and they called it alligator because it was a heavy char and the inside of the cask looked like an alligator skin.
Level 5 or something.
Level 5, something like that. Yeah, Tony. Whereas a toasting is a lighter application of heat, which just helps to convert the organic compounds in the wood, like the lignin and the cellulose, into flavour compounds. Guaiacol and eugenol and phenols and that kind of thing, you know. And they help to create. Someone said to me, you know, that they can get up to they can't explain where all the flavour comes from. As I said before, what they can tell you is that there can be up to 300 chemicals in whiskey which can create flavour, you know. And he said about 25 of them come from the wood, which is why it's ridiculous to say that 70% comes from the cask. But what that 25 does is react with the other flavours already there to create new flavours. So the wood is actually creating more by reaction rather than giving, you know. So,
charcoal in this is actually smoothing it out a bit, so you can drink it at 6 years.
Yeah. So sorry. What was the question, Lawrence?
I think the medium charring means that you can drink a 6-year-old.
Yes, Lawrence. Very, very good point. That's right. Yeah. So I think that they had this for 4 years in the bourbon hogshead. Maybe thought it wasn't going the way it should do for 4 years, and tried this. I mean, the thing about it, of course, with peated whiskey, the most important thing that you're going to experience when you taste it is that phenols that are created by the peat right at the beginning of the process, which carries through all the way into that glass. The longer it spends in the cask, the less peatiness you're likely to get. You know, that peat will diminish over the years in the cask just because of the reaction in that cask with the chemical compounds, which is why probably after 6 years our spirits team have thought, you know, this is probably as good as this one might ever be, you know. The first thing you get, no doubt about it, is the harbour smoke, peat.
John, the nose to me is a little bit like, you know, when you've had a fire and it's been put out, it's not burning, but it's smouldering. It reminds me of that.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful.
I get that quite a lot, Tony, as well. What I call it's either smouldering embers.
That's it.
Or it's a fire in the next field. So you're not close.
Yeah, something like that. It's not immediate. But it's a beautiful, beautiful nose.
Yeah. But it's got a kind of cinnamon spiciness underneath it, I would say, as well. You know, if you can get below the peat, you get a kind of a spiciness there. No doubt about it, you know. For me, anyway.
When I first smelt it, it made me think of opening a fresh jar of peanut butter for some reason.
Okay, good. That's great.
When I first smelt it, it nearly knocked me out.
Nearly knocked you off your skateboard. Oh no, that was Aidan.
No brakes this time.
That was Aidan. I nearly knocked Aidan off his skateboard.
I think for me, John, a lot of the peated whiskey, it's a good idea not to linger on the nose and go for the taste, because the nose actually puts people off, but the taste can be sublime.
I think you're right, Lawrence. I also think that some of the South Shore Isla whiskies, particularly Roy, are known for the big medicinal hit, aren't they? And the panel have mentioned a slight medicinal note in this, and you get it eventually. It doesn't hit you like a Freud will hit you with the medicinal note.
Yeah, you almost want to hold your nose and taste it.
Mm.
It's a very nice whiskey to drink, though. That's definitely.
Yeah.
Lawrence?
I
Bar
actually
humbug.
really like the nose.
What are you saying, bar humbug, to you miserable git, Mr. Probnitz?
Lawrence.
I agree.
Holding your nose.
It's not for me, gents.
No. We'd have never guessed that.
I actually think
There are other words I might use, but I've been told I'm not allowed to.
I think at 59.8%, this is one of the probably easiest peaty whiskey to drink that I've experienced in a while.
The strength and the incredibly
You shouldn't believe 59.8%, would you?
No.
easy.
You've got to be careful when we're talking about charring and the smell of smoke and stuff. You shouldn't use fire brigade terminology. A friend of mine in the fire brigade, he says, "Oh, it smells like a 3-pump fire," which is where they send a pump to where somebody's been trapped, and sometimes there's extra smells in there. So I think it's just a 2-pump fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry about that.
One thing I will say for members, if you want to see all of this happening, if you go up to the cooperage outside, it's gone. Anyway, but you can see them smoking and toasting the barrels there.
Chocolate Speyside, Lawrence? Lawrence, you mean Speyside cooperage?
Speyside cooperage, yeah. That's where we went, Lawrence.
It's just opposite Craigellachie, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't for the life of me when I was talking, remember it.
It's actually fascinating to go and see a cooperage. Somebody told me actually that used to work in a cooperage that the guys used to be on piecework, which meant they only get paid per approved cask. And somebody said that still happens these days, but I don't think so. I don't think the union will allow that. I think they get a wage now, you know. But days gone by, that's why they work so quickly. Every cask they made, it got a stamp of approval, they got paid for that. If it didn't get a stamp of approval, they had to go and make it again or something, you know.
Yeah, I think they told us something similar when we were there, John.
Aye. Now, what I tell you guys just about this at Islay, because we're coming back to Islay later on. I mean, some of these distilleries use the same peating levels. They get the peat from the same place. People say, they're all the same, and other people say no, they're all different. And I went to a debate at University College London about 6 years ago. I'll tell you where to find the notes on it actually later if you're interested. But this was a debate about what's important in whiskey flavour, whether it's the craft or whether it's the place. And there's 3 speakers. One was Nick Morgan, who's a scientist at the Diageo, top man. One was Jim McCheyne, who you all know. Another one was Georgie Crawford, who was the manager at Lagavulin at the time. And Nick Morgan said, I'm going to argue as a scientist here for the fact that you can do anything anywhere if you follow the rules of the science. He said, but I'm going to contradict myself before I even start. He said, back in the 1920s, a guy called Peter Mackey owned Lagavulin. And he also owned a distribution company which distributed Lafroig. And he fell out with Lafroig, and Lafroig went to a different distribution company. So Peter Mackey said, I am going to out Lafroig, and built a new distillery inside Lagavulin to make it like Lafroig. Same still, same water, same peat, same process. Hired the Lafroig manager at a higher salary to run it, and he could not get it like Lafroig, half a mile away. And he says, as a scientist, and he's in that DVD that I mentioned earlier, The Myth and the Magic, and he said, what I cannot understand as a scientist is how that is even half a mile, the very, very specific location of Lafroig made the difference, and we don't know why. And exactly the same thing happened with the Capadonic and Glen Grant, remember? Glen Grant built another distillery across the road, connected to a pipe, Glen Grant number 2 it was called, and they couldn't, exactly the same, and they couldn't get it to taste like Glen Grant. It was Capadonic. So even when we're tasting these Islay whiskies, why I say keep this so we can try it against the Kalila at the end. Kalila is along the coast a bit there, in north bit of the island, but their whiskey will be different. And we'll talk about Kalila when we get there. So the whole thing is fascinating, and I think single cask brings it all to life because you haven't had that manipulation of all the different types of casks to create a consistent flavour every single time. So, guys, any questions? And we're going to go for a beer break.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine, John.
No.
All right, guys. Okay.
How long?
How long are we having, Chris?
He's gone.
How long do people want?
How long do people want?
He's asking how long.
Yeah. I mean, it's 25 past now. Why don't we do
10 to 22?
Yeah.
22. See you, guys.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Okay.
All right, guys. See you in a sec.
15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes, isn't it?
So if we just put the
Mute.
insert, which is that one.
Right, I'm going to grab a bit. Hey, Tony, you're muted. You like these then,
Just
do you?
in case anybody needs to know how to leave their equipment, they should mute it, just in case something is going on in the house.
Hang on just a second.
That's all right. Yeah, thanks. I need a refill. Yeah, open it and leave it on the sink.
People don't know it's turn the camera off. I don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Nice whiskey, is it? Yeah. Judy Gold. Yeah. Chris? One you need, Chris? I've got some, sorry, no. There's sweet chili. There's some of them sour cream on there. Salt and vinegar, base.
Hey, Martin, how's it going tonight?
What?
Oh, hang on. Maybe if I turn my video on. There we go.
God, Kim, you're good looking.
Oh, sorry, what was that? Got you with a mouthful.
Yeah, you look wonderful tonight.
Why, thank you. It's that blue eyes I've got, you know.
Where's one of them?
I think Nige and Tony are having a bit of a chat off campus.
Why?
Forrest.
Hi, Mark.
You all right, mate? Hang on.
How are you doing, son?
Yeah, I'm surviving.
Yeah.
We've nearly finished the kitchen.
All right. What have you been doing in the kitchen?
A new one.
Oh, I know what that feels like. Yeah.
Yeah.
did you have it put in, or did you do it yourself?
No, I got someone in. I wasn't capable of doing it. One more day and it's finished.
Well, we're done now. I mean, I'm about to well, I say we're done. We got a little bit of snagging, but there's another job that they're down to come and give me a price for, which is the hall, which is the underfloor. I'm going to put a cupboard underneath the staircase.
Yeah.
And have the same flooring that I've had put down in the kitchen. But because it was all this stay upstairs and all that, and I thought, fuck, I ain't doing that. I've done it now for weeks. Yeah. So I've had a little bit of a break. And they've got a little bit of snagging to do. They've got to change the light switch. Some of the flooring just needs a little bit of attention. But other than that, it's done. And so I'm about to whack paint on the ceiling. I've done the paintwork. Then just go and get a bit of paint for the walls when we decide what we need. And then it's job done. Then I've got to do the conservatory because, of course, that window we used to have is now gone.
I've got the same problem with my orange room.
Yeah.
And then it'll be the hall, and then the bedroom, and then... Oh.
Well, yeah, it's going to be every fucking thing at the end of the day. Because once you start looking at everything else and think...
Totally. But really pleased with what we've achieved.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah. You'll see it in a couple of weeks' time, anyhow, won't you?
Absolutely. So, how are you getting all this... Sorry?
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I've got to walk through the kitchen to get to the back garden.
You can fly through the kitchen, Nige.
Really?
The double doors will open for your girth.
What time are we planning on starting, by the way? Because I'm going to be coming on foot, probably.
Well, what time would you like to start, Tony?
The night before?
Yeah, we can.
No, I don't mind. Nigel's holding up 3 fingers.
3 a.m.
What, 2 o'clock? Yeah, 3 o'clock's great for me.
Yeah, well, I don't mind because I say I'm going to be on foot, so I'm going to
I'll
walk,
still be here.
walk
Tony, you'll
back.
be walking past my place, so knock on the front door. We can do part of the way together.
Yeah, okay, mate, no problem at all.
Cheers.
What about poor Mike? How's he getting there?
He's going to have to walk a bit further.
Either walk or I don't know, maybe get a lift. I don't know.
Nigel drive past his front door.
What, if he got lost? Yeah.
I can get there. I'll be walking back.
Oh, well, that's fine. We're all going to be walking back then, so that sounds like a plan, doesn't it?
I'll put the tent up in the garden. You can sleep over.
Well, I suppose we could have a pit stop at mine on the way back just to make sure I've got enough whiskey. And then that long one was beautiful, wasn't it, by the way?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, guys.
I was saying to Nigel, because we had a little chat just now.
We know, because we can see you on the video.
I decided I thought I might write some notes, right? So the notes read, get one, get one, get one.
Oh, no, I hope they don't. Because the Bunnahabhain is French exclusive.
Yeah,
so you won't get one of them.
Did you see that on the little
Yeah.
pack? Yeah. I always see that for the first time when the tasty pack arrived.
That's a little bit naughty.
What have you been doing? Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a mistake or not, because how the hell can you bring people into a tasting from all over and then tell them it's only France and getting it?
Well, that's part of the benefit of being a member, isn't it? Getting an opportunity to buy it.
As you guys will know, you guys are members over many years. The SMWS is not a big commercial organisation, it's a members club, and our little mistakes we make here and there are legion.
You're talking about stories about the club. I can't remember when this was. I know that Mike was with me. We went up. I don't know whether there was three of us. We went up there.
Kim was with us an all time.
Was it Kim as well? I thought it might have been. We went up there one afternoon, had a few beers, and we had a few drams in the club. And the guy that was behind the bar, who was a very nice fella, disappeared for a while. And he came back and he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Is this yours?" It was the original membership card I had that I thought I'd lost. So now I've got a new, the green one now, but this was the old black and white one.
Yeah.
And he said, "I've recognised your name," he said, "and I knew we had that somewhere." He said, "I thought I'd come and find it and give you it back." I mean, what an amazing thing to happen.
Who was that? You know?
I can't remember his name.
Kim might remember his name.
But what an amazing thing to do. He said, "I saw your name on that card." He said, "and I knew I'd seen your name before."
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, he kept rubbing under Chris and under Kim and mine's nose, John. You know, his black card.
They're your babies, you see. I've been a member for quite a long time.
There's a guy in Winchester who's member number 72, and his wife was a friend of Pip's, worked beside Pip or something, you know.
Yeah, very good.
What's that?
Kim remembers the guy's name. I can't remember his name.
No.
I was.
I'm Chris.
I'm sure it was Chris. Tony, I'm sure it was Chris.
Chris.
Yeah. Chris de Bovra.
I just knew him as Chris. He was excellent.
Well, the kind of slim guy.
Yeah.
Very tall.
And we surprised him one time. A bunch of us went up there. It's when they
Just
did the
before the
refurb.
refurb.
I had 20% off the old label. We went in there and tasted a bunch, and they walked up to the counter and said, "I want 14 bottles," and he nearly fell over.
That was a good afternoon, that was.
It was.
Was I there then as well?
I don't think you were, Tony.
No, Nigel ordered for you that day.
No, I don't think I could make that one.
No. I ended up getting 3 bottles myself, actually.
Well, I have a little rule when I go up there. I say to whoever's working the bar, "Don't serve me anything that you can't sell me." It works a treat. I normally leave with at least 2 or 3 bottles.
I tell you something. I was doing a tasting last week in London, right? And what we decided to do was do a tasting for some of the old stuff that's still lying around. You know? So I got a list of all the stuff which is not from the recent outturns. And we did a tasting, and some stuff was fantastic, and it's still available to buy. Now, I said to the society about 4 years ago, maybe. Remember, there used to be a bar Bible, and you used to walk in there, and there was a whole list of everything that was available. So you could look through it, you could get yourself a dram, look through it. Oh my God, I fancy that. Man, I remember that one from 4 years ago, or I never tried that one 5 years ago, whatever it was. And then they stopped that. So everybody just comes in now and buys and looks at the outturn.
Yeah.
So it means that the stuff that's still been sold from previous outturns just kind of sits there. And I've been on it. I said, why don't you bring that bar Bible back? If it's too difficult to maintain, all that, you know. There was a girl working there for a while in London called Jasmine, and she was going to put it together for them digitally or something. And then she left, and it just never happened. It's just crazy. Honestly, what you want to do, guys, if you're in there, is ask these guys. If it's something you particularly like, a flavour profile, the trouble is we never had flavour profiles back a few years ago. But if you like a particular distillery, you can ask them, and they'll dig stuff for you that you won't even imagine they still have. And they might even be to buy it at a big discount as well, you know? I just don't know why they stopped at Bar Bible.
No, it seemed very strange because, as you say, everything is focused now on the new releases. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't actually ever get any reference to the old bottles. I'm going to go and grab a quick drink before we start now.
Okay.
What's the annual membership then?
It's 65 quid.
55.
65. But if you want to join one of these guys who's already a member, you can join through his membership and get 20% off. And it also means that the guy who's joined you on gets a discount voucher for 20 quid off a bottle as well.
Yes, so just let me say that I'm a member, Mike is not, and Tony is not.
Excuse me.
50 quid.
John, can I ask you a completely different question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was in my local bar the other day, saying I was coming here. There's a guy used to run bars in Prague. He was asking me, did you ever do tastings in Prague and where? He was just really interested. He seemed to remember he may have met you.
I did do a tasting. There was a Prague Whisky Festival about 3 years ago. And I was there, and I was kind of... I'll tell you a funny story, Simon, in a minute. But no, I was there doing tastings. And they had my name up on the programme and all that, and the banners in the hall. So that's how he might... I'll tell you what happened, Doug. I was doing a tasting on a Friday night and a Saturday night, right? So the girl who was running it, called Marta, said to me, John, they can't really... They can understand a bit of English, but with your accent and everything, if you could talk slowly, that'd be great, you know? I said, that's fine, Marta, I'm used to that, I'll do that. And her son was in at the tasting. So after the tasting finished, she said, John, that was great, but he speeded up towards the end. And some were having difficulty understanding you. Yes, oh, sorry. I'll make sure I go slower right through tomorrow night. Woke up on a Saturday morning, no voice. Voice had gone. So I spent the whole day gargling and taking bloody throat pills, you know, because the tasting was in the evening. But by the time I got to the tasting in the evening, I could just croak. I could only talk and I croak, you know. I thought, what am I going to do? So all I did was, as soon as I tried to raise my voice, it just went. So I had to talk in a low croak. So rather than talk from the floor, I just went round in little tables croaking at them, you know, whiskies. So I said to Marta afterwards, "Here, Marta, I'm just so sorry. My voice had gone, blah, blah, blah." Oh, she said, "No, that's okay. They thought that was better than last night."
That mean you would come around all our houses now and talk for a letterbox at us?
I'll tell you, you have some experiences going abroad, I'll tell you.
I can imagine, yeah. What's been your favourite tasting then?
My favourite tasting ever is probably the G20 Summit.
Tonight, John, tonight.
Oh, yeah, well, you're second.
Get on.
This one hasn't finished, though, guys, be fair.
No, I think the G20 Summit in 2009, because it was just such a surprise, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
But I've also had other great tastings, and I mean, try to think. I did a tasting. But I was going to mention it later. I'll just briefly mention it now. I did a tasting on the tall ship on Isla, under the shadow of Lagavulin. No, Lagavulin, Kalila, a couple of years ago at the festival. And that was quite special, you know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think your first tasting for the Sassenachs Dram Whisky Club was quite special, John.
I was just about to mention that.
He can't even remember where it was, Nigel.
Go on, John, where was it?
It was in that bar just down from the station.
It was called
well done, John.
What was the bar called, John?
The bar is called, I can't remember the name of the bar.
It was called the Station.
The station, right, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember the reason we left there is at the start, people were walking through to go to the loo or something like that, weren't they? Or...
Yeah, and they put a pool table in there.
Aye, that's right.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris, carry on if you like, yes.
And the beer's atrocious as well.
Was it? I can't remember that,
Yeah, let's get a move on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, it looks like a few people aren't here, but you know, we said 22.
Okay, folks. So the next whiskey, the fourth whiskey is the fourth whiskey, but it's number 35. now this distillery is quite fascinating because it used to be
not for me, by the way.
Eh? Not for you.
Me. No.
Not for you. Sorry about that. This distillery used to be Hudson of ours, because from 2004 to 2015 we were actually owned by the Glenmorangie Company, who in turn were owned by Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy. They also owned this distillery, Glenmorangie. So for a while we were very, very close. We did a lot of their bottlings over the years. They've always tended to be on the kind of sweeter, richer, fruitier side of spirit, you know. Most of our bottles we've created out of the spirit have been sweet, fruity and mellow, dried fruits, juicy and old and dignified. But quite a lot of old ones for these guys. So this one is 24 years old. It's sweet, fruity and mellow. It could have actually been on the border of old and dignified. 24 years in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. Let's just think what that means for a minute. It means that you're getting the full bourbon and best bourbon effect on that new make spirit. So it's likely to give you very sweet, fruity and mellow flavours, hence the name. So you're getting the coconut and the coffee and the marshmallow and stuff. So let's have a look at it and see what we think. 222 bottles from it, which is my first bourbon barrel after 24 years. Is actually a remarkable outturn. And it's because it's lost quite a bit of lost 10% of its alcohol level. But it's all obviously kept quite a lot of its actual volume to give us 222 bottles. So let's see what we think.
Yeah. Red bloody angels, make anything.
John, I've just heard somebody else referring to the tasting notes. I haven't got a clue. What is a Muffet toffee?
Oh, that's me,
Moffat.
Mike.
Yeah, because what is it?
I know. Moffat is a town in the Borders.
Yeah, it
We've
is.
got one here.
And they used to make toffee sweets down there, toffees.
Ah, right. Okay. Thank you.
It's like an Arbroath smoky. Can you imagine telling somebody in China this smells like an Arbroath smoky? You know. It's
Okay.
like, you know, one of the things we're trying to do with these tasting notes is make them a little bit more international. You know.
No, never do that. It's far more fun. The esoteric bit is much more fun.
Yeah.
I know the next time I'm up north, I'm going to try and buy some Moffat toffee.
Moffat toffee, that's right.
I think you find, Mike, that's actually a sexual offence in certain parts of the country.
We need to try and change your accent a bit, mate. Can I have a Moffat toffee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go more Dublin, Mike.
Hey guys,
Yeah, true.
hey guys, when I talk about the number of bottles we get from an outturn, you all know why that changes, don't you? It's because the evaporation from the cask. Has anybody heard my story about the angel?
Yeah.
You've heard it, Mike, have you?
Well, I've heard it, John, but the others might not have done. Come on, let them have it.
Okay, so what happens is that the spirit evaporates into the air. In Scotland, the angels have to be quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Because we get 90 billion litres of rain per year. So the spirit evaporates and comes straight back down again with the rain. Up and down, up and down. And the tour guide at Blair Athol Distillery is fond of saying that she thinks the grass around the distillery comes up already half cut. But it's always a good laugh, and always an interesting point to look at how much we got out of that cask and compare it to other casks, because the difference can be remarkable, even in the same place over the same length of time.
Just tell me what Mike, if you made a special effort, Mike, would have the best possible background. Yours looks a lot classier than everybody else.
It's just my dining room wall, Dan, as you know. So,
Yeah, I know, but it looks like you positioned yourself very carefully. I thought you might have been in front of your new whiskey cupboard.
No, that's in the kitchen.
Can I tell you something, Mike? You were talking about blooming Moffat toffees.
Yeah.
Look at the name of this blooming thing. Rumtoft, Beerenbot and Stollen. What's that all about?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I am tempted because it was bottled on my daughter's 11th birthday, so I am tempted. Yeah.
Oh, you mean distilled?
Distilled, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should buy us all a bottle, Michael, to celebrate.
Well, it's not available yet, Dan. Hence why I asked John earlier.
You could pre-order.
Mike,
Part of the society.
Mike, why have you got the Christmas lights on?
Because they're on every day. I don't take them down year in, year out. And they started flashing, and I hadn't noticed, so I'll put them on permanent.
Mike, I tell you what, I just got the list through today. I always get it through in advance.
Yeah.
And I get told what ones that I can buy in advance, okay?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll check that number tomorrow, and if I can get it in advance, I'll get you one.
Thank you.
So that you don't have to worry about losing your place in the queue.
Yeah,
okay.
Lovely.
I'll drop you an email tomorrow, let you know, okay?
Cheers, John. I'll just turn my Christmas lights off because I wouldn't want Andrew to be worried about it.
They weren't turned off last night.
Okay. So what do we think of that one, guys?
Don't try it.
It's really good.
There you go. You see, anybody who's been on a Zoom call with me will know what time my lights go off. It's always the same time.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
When your lights go off, it's not important. It's when your lights go out is important. You know? Hey, listen, guys. I'll tell you something. I'm just going to throw a wee opinion in here. This is 24 years old. It's £138. And if you said to me, you want one of them or number 7, I would take number 7.
I was about to say I totally agree with that, John. It's not doing it.
Every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, for 24, this is very disappointing.
Where's the defibrillator? I want a pension.
That's not working for me at all.
Not that nice.
I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, no, I wouldn't say, not turning my nose up at it. I'm just saying in comparison to number 7, you know, I just think it's I prefer number 7.
Yes, no contest.
And 59.8%.
It's got a nice flavour profile, but not every whiskey appreciates over sort of like 21 years, does it? Some of them lose a bit of the impact they had.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happened here, Rob.
I'm number 3.
But Rob, that's the point that we're supposed to be looking out for, is to make sure that we get it and bottle it at the right time. All I'm saying is that this I think hasn't matured in a first fill bourbon barrel the way you'd expect. So I just think that's why they've left it there for so long, and eventually found this is the best it's going to be. Maybe 6 years ago, it just hadn't done what it's supposed to do in that kind of cask.
Yeah.
I just worry that it was losing a lot of alcohol, but it was retaining its volume. So, you know, I don't know.
It's incredibly drinkable. I mean, it's
it's very nice, but not. What did you say? 130 something.
Yeah, it's not £120 nice.
138.
That's,
138.
Yeah, no.
138.
John, could you just explain something about the pricing in general? I mean, is that £138 tag mainly a reflection of the age it's been with you?
Yeah, what we have to remember is that you know, like we're in a market. You know, we're a members club, but we're in a market. So what we try to reflect to our members is the cost to us of producing a whiskey, and we obviously have to make a profit as well.
Yeah.
If you compare our older whiskies to any older whiskies out in the market, we will be more competitive, the priced. But it's a simple fact of we've got this in our warehouse, it's taking up space, we paid for it, was less. There should be less to sell after that, which is why I'm surprised there's 222 bottles there. So obviously there's a price factor there. But we're also aware that if the prices in the whiskey market are going up generally, and obviously our price are going to reflect that, but as a general rule, it will be reflected by the age and the effort that's gone into actually making that. You know?
John, I took on board what you said, try and keep some back so you can go back and compare.
Yeah.
I've tipped a bit more of number 2 or number 7, as you call it, into number 4 or number 35, as it might be called, right? And I've got them right in front of me now. And when I have number 7243 and a sip, and now the other one, I find the fruitiness of this beats the sort of very toffee flavour that I'm getting from the 7 now.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has got that ability or they've already drunk it. I don't know. But
mine's well gone.
But
yeah, I've been a huge Longmorn fan for a few years, and I thought the sherry in the Longmorn we had this evening sort of was a bit overpowering for the normal distillate you get from Longmorn.
That's what I'm thinking now. I'm revisiting.
I'm also a huge fan of aged Glenmorangie, so I just love this because it's that sweet floral, just
I find the 7243 is sort of unsubtle from a point of view, but this one has got some really lovely fruity and floral flavours.
That's fantastic to get those different views. I actually thought the number 7 I could kind of almost curl up with, watch a great film or read a book or something, you know, and it would just, it's warm and fruity. This one, I think, you know, it's called sweet, fruity, mellow, but I think there's a little bit of hidden kick in this Glenmorangie as well, you know, which I usually like.
I don't know. I think maybe if I'd had that first, maybe. I think it's too subtle after the ones we've already drunk. So
Yeah,
maybe it's just, or maybe it's losing it on me. I mean, I don't know.
I still got it.
I don't think this is doing what I would have expected it to do.
Okay.
So I'm not getting a lot of the, you know, the toffee and all of that, and the sweet and the floral.
If you'd
Oh,
have
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
Grigio spritzer in the break, Tony, to cleanse the palate, you'd probably get the subtlety.
No, I think what I'm saying, Kim, I think it's too subtle, and maybe if I'd started with it earlier on, it might have been okay. But for me, it's not. No, I'm not. It's not a bad whiskey at all. It's a very pleasant whiskey, and actually, for its age and its price, it's a value. It's very good value. But actually, I've also got another one of these. So what I will do is tomorrow or whatever, I'll start with this one because I think I'll probably have a different point of view.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll tell you what, something. I mean, that's a great point, Tony, because it's always a struggle to think of it. There tends to be a kind of common agreement on how you proceed through a whiskey tasting. So we start with the lighter ones, you know, and you move through and you end up with the big peaty ones, okay? And in Scandinavia, I've mentioned them before, but they have a kind of, they say, nah, that's all nonsense. You start off with peaty ones. And if you talk to a true Scandinavian, they'll say, well, start off with peaty ones and move to bigger peaty ones. You know? but the thing is that, I mean, sometimes we put the older ones, this 24 year, which I've done today for different reasons, but we put the older ones at the end, okay? Because we're building up to them. but the point is, if they are exceptional whiskies for their age, and you should put them first before you drank everything else.
I agree.
So you can experience them at the height of your palate's appreciation. So if you would 3 or 4, let's not kid ourselves on here. If you would 3 or 4 whiskies, what you feel from the 4th or 5th whiskey is going to be different than you've done if you drank it on its own. You know.
Well, John, you must remember when we met many times before and had a few beers, and one of the things I said to you when we were thinking about ideas with playing with water and stuff like that is that I've often felt with the distillery tastings, it's all about perception. So the idea is if you're going to end up on a 30 or 40-year-old, everyone's thinking it's going to be good, it's going to be good, it's going to be good. Whereas we know that the art of getting to 30 or 40 year in a barrel is so difficult, whatever, and it's bound to be, in my opinion, much more fine, much more balanced. I've always said you should start the other way around.
Yes.
Old to young.
I tell you, we did, Tony, a few years ago when Sam McDonald was the manager at London venue. We had a bit of a chat, and he said, look, why don't we try a grain whiskey at the end after the peated whiskey? You know? I said, so we thought, well, everybody finishes with a peat, and that's what you're kind of left with. And what do they do afterwards? They go to the bar and they have a beer, you know, and, you know, because I guess the peat can stay too long with you, you know.
It's very hard to go back the other way, isn't it?
So we had a grain whiskey after a peat. We said we loved it. Everybody enjoyed the peat and then felt their palate was refreshed and enjoyed the grain whiskey. So I tell you, it's a very, very difficult thing.
It is. I agree.
Everybody, you know.
I agree, but I still personally believe it's the wrong way round. I think older, only because the younger ones, in terms of the years, are probably a little bit more robust. Not always, of course, because there's no rule.
Sure.
But most of the older whiskies I've tasted, 30, 45, have been very, very beautiful whiskies, but slightly more delicate.
Can I ask you guys a question? I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to lead into a little story. Do we all agree that the whiskey back in the 60s and all that, and 70s, was better than the whiskey we're making today?
I'm too young. I don't know about that one, John. I don't know.
Okay. You've heard all this.
You weren't born in the 60s.
Yeah. I'm more talking about, you know.
You've heard all this romancing about Bowmore 64 and all that kind of stuff, and You go to an auction site and pay thousands of pounds for a whisky back in that era. Now, let me tell you a couple of things, just to think about it. I'm not going to give you facts. I'm just giving you a couple of opinions here. There was a guy called R.J.S. McDowell who wrote whisky books back in the 60s and the 70s. He was the kind of Charlie McCheyne of his day, you know. He's gone now, but he wrote in his books that he wrote then, he thought the whisky that was made 30 or 40 years before the 60s and 70s was better than the 60s and 70s. And just as we're saying, some people are saying now. And I have got a kind of view that some of the people who talk up the whiskies from the 60s and 70s are those guys who've got a collection of the stuff. And it's in their interest to talk about it. So last October, I'm talking to Jim McCheyne. Jim McCheyne is 15 when he started at Bowmore in the 60s. And he worked right through his career at Bowmore before he went on to Bruichladdich and then Ardnahoe. So Jim was there in the 60s, okay? So I said to Jim, Jim, all that stuff about the whiskies in the 60s, Bowmore and stuff, the whiskey was better then, was it? He said, John, you mean when?
No.
You mean when we used to get 3 tots a day as part of our staff benefit? When we used to drink pints of wash out the wash back? When we used to get into the still room and the spirit that the still man had fallen asleep and missed the cup? When we used to fill out any old wood we could, because we never knew about wood in these days. And we knew it was all gone for blending anyway. Or today, when there's no drinking on site, everything is precise, the still man makes the cup precisely, and we know so much more about wood than we did back then. John, do you want to ask me the question again?
So, John, my answer to that is that in the old days, you had dozens of people working on the distillery. Now you've got probably a maximum of 3.
I'm going to tell you a wee story about that, Lawrence. Somebody said to me, that maybe one of the guys in this club, I can't quite remember, when I told that story before, somebody said, aye, but maybe when Samaroli, the famous Italian collector, went to the distillery to choose his casks, perhaps it was a day when the still man hadn't fallen asleep. Perhaps it happened to be loaded into a good cask. You know? I think, well, I guess that stuff is possible. All I'm saying is that all of these people who tell you that 1964 Bowmore is heaven, I wish I had £25,000 to buy that.
Yeah.
I'd love for them to taste it neat, taste it blind. Taste it blind. If somebody gives you a glass of Bowmore made in 1964, okay, your mind is made up before that's entered.
That's true, yeah. It's what I was saying earlier on about perception.
Yes. Okay, chaps, I'll tell you what. Guess what we're going to finish with after all that talk?
Peaty.
A peaty one. Okay.
Wee Peaty. The wee Peaty.
John, on the perception basis, and I don't know if you explained it earlier, but perhaps it might be worth explaining why the society does the numbers rather than name the distillery.
I know it's not him; it's the speaker.
Good point, mate. Good point, mate. Let me do that. Right at the beginning, 1983, you have to understand. Some of you will know. Some of you are too young, maybe to remember. Maybe you've looked back on it. There was a huge recession.
It's in the book.
Yeah, that's right. It's in the book. In the early 80s, following the glorious Margaret's escalation to premiership, we had this recession, you know, and Scotch whisky was hit as bad as all the other industries. Distilleries were closing all over the place. Pip Hill was this madman. I say madman because his lawyers and his solicitor said, can't you see what's happening to the Scotch whisky industry? It's contracting. We've had a buffer, and you want to start a single cask, single malt whisky business. You're mad. But anyway, he did. And here we are, 37 years later, biggest.
Fine, don't worry about it. It's fine.
So pick your mic off if you want to talk. So what happened was that we went to Glenfarclas to begin with and said, can we get a cask? We'll bottle it for our members. And Glenfarclas said, well, if you put our name on it, people will get confused because they're used to drinking Glenfarclas out the bottle. The single cask will taste differently from ours, so they'll get confused. It might interfere with our kind of reputation for the flavours that we provide. So he's, how about a numbering system then? So, okay, so what number 1 for Glenfarclas, 1.1, first bottle. So that's what we did. So we went on a numbering system thing because all of our whiskies were going to be different from their proprietary bottlings so that people wouldn't know which distillery it was necessarily. And that's why we did it. That's why we did it. So everything was a one-off unique, so the number was special. That worked very well. We used to give our members little clues about which geographically and stylistically which distillery it was. And then the internet came along and you can just check now. You can look it up yourself and find out, you know. But the numbering system is the kind of ethos, the way it started. It's about allowing you as a member to come to the whiskey
If it stays there, it's fine.
without any preconceived ideas, hopefully, about what it should taste like. Because if you had a Glenfarclas last night, you buy number 1 SMWS today, you might think it's going to taste the same. It won't, because ours is a single cask. Okay, it's the great wonder of the whole business. Every single cask maturing anywhere in Scotland will have a different flavour from the next one.
How many distillers are you up to now then, John?
Sorry?
How many distillers are you up to now? If we start from what?
We're up to number 145.
I've got a 129.1.
Yeah, okay.
Sadly empty.
Well done for drinking it and not flipping it then, Richard. Well done.
Absolutely. Completely empty, look.
Yeah.
The only flipping you should do is when it's empty, John.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you this, guys. Let me tell you this. I was in a street market in Vietnam last year, and there was a stall there.
Not on the same shooting with timbers for me.
And the stall was selling empty whiskey bottles. That was all they were selling. Now, why are they selling empty whiskey bottles? So you could get the bottle of Beaumont 1964, big cold tea in it, or bells, and try to convince an auction site that it's real. You know, and there are so many fakes now on the auction markets that people wonder whether eventually the whole thing will come crumbling down.
They're on eBay as well now.
Yes.
Loads
If it does, hey, listen, if you buy a whiskey on eBay, MD buys a whiskey on eBay, he must have their head examined.
That was,
you know.
I've got that.
No, there's lots of empty ones on sale there.
I would have for this one.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's the reason why the price has generally been dragged up because of the secondary market. If that collapses, then the prices will stabilise generally.
Can I tell you, John? Can I tell you a little bit of story about Kilchoman?
Of course, you can.
We went up there when they were going to auction the very first bottling, and they were up there, and the director was running the auction. And it was going up, 1,000, 2,000. I thought, and at 3,800 quid, I went, put my hand up, and then I had to hold my breath till it went up to 3,900. and he sold for about 5,000, but the main man bought it and said he was going to give it to charity. So it was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
SDA ceases trading. That's quite sad.
Okay, chaps. Let's look at number 5. Okay. Now, number 5 is from that famous distillery on the northwest coast of Ireland, looking over to Jura at the Paps.
Yeah. It's a beautiful distillery.
Yes, the actual design of the distillery is called the Waterloo Street style, because United Distillers.
Sorry, John. Can you tell me what number the distillery is?
53.
Oh, well, that's not the one I'm drinking, but I'll tell you what I think later, yeah? Cheers.
All right, okay, Nigel, no bother. It's number 53, it's Kalila, okay? And
John, can you just pronounce that again?
You're having a laugh.
No, I call it something completely different. So what is it called?
Got it?
Kalila.
Kalila.
Oh, Kalila. Okay, got it. Yep. Sorry, mate.
I think the books will tell you it should be Kalila. I kind of see a halfway between A and U. Kalila. it's like Bruch Laddie. Tony, the books will tell you should pronounce the at the end. And then,
I just call that laddie. It's easier.
No. They tell you should call it brook laddie.
Brook laddie.
I can't not say brew laddie. You know.
Oh right, yeah.
I can't not do that. I can't not do that. So
I got infected with whiskey by going up diving on Isla for 20 years, from 1982 to 2002, and I just got steeped in it. And so when they say Kalila, that's how I say it. It's sort of like they say it. They also say they speak Gaelic. And when I come back to down south, I say they speak Gaelic. You mean Gaelic? I said, you better go and tell them that, because they call it Gaelic.
hey guys, let me tell you a wee story then about that Gaelic, okay? So Isla's got 3,000 people. It's got, I think it's 9 distilleries, probably going to be 11 in a few years' time. And so, we get lots of whiskey tourists, obviously, you know. If they get 10% of their tax back that they create for the revenue through whiskey, they'd be the richest island in the world, but they don't. So, but I'm in the Bowmore Hotel bar a few years ago, right? And at the bar, there's 2 guys having a chat, and one's a Spaniard who's on a whiskey tour, and the other guy's a local who speaks Gaelic, and they're trying to have a conversation in English, right? So they have this chat, and eventually the Spaniard says, is there a word in your language that is the same as our mañana? And the Gaelic guy stroked his chin and thought about it for a minute or two and said, you know, I don't think we've got anything in our language quite that sense of urgency.
Absolutely. And
you also guys know that when you drive on the island, you have to wave to every other driver. Yeah. Whenever I come off the island, I find myself doing it on the mainland, and people looking at me strangely, you know.
It's a beautiful place, John. Beautiful place.
Yeah. Nigel's saying he's got a 1-2-2. You know something, Nigel? Immediately after that bloody tasting last week, I went on to get a 1-1-2, a 1-2-2, and a 1-3-5, and the buggers, the members, had bought out the 1-2-2. So that I've got the 1-1-2 and 1-3-5 arrived today. No 1-2-2. Anyway, guys, let me ask you a question.
I'm not surprised, John. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a cracker. So here's Kalila, who gets its malt at the same phenol specification from the same place, Port Ellen Maltings, as Lagavulin. Why do the 2 whiskies end up so different? Because it doesn't matter what the ppm is in the barley, it's how the process works to transform that into whiskey. And Kalila are very different in the processes to Lagavulin. Long, slow distillations. Before that, slower, longer fermentations. A middle cut, which stops at 63% compared to Lagavulin's 59%, so they don't get as much of the heavier stuff coming through. So it just shows you that no matter what your raw materials are, depending on how you work your process, you can create a new make spirit that you want. And by the way, the whiskey blending world wants Kalila. 85% of it, I think, these days goes to blends. You know, Diageo is one of the biggest blending. There's also a couple of stories about Kalila. Way back in the late 70s, I think it was completely rebuilt. Okay, mid 70s, completely rebuilt. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, they completely refurbished it again. So who was it that was talking earlier? Lawrence, was it you? About the number of people working at a distillery?
Yeah, so, Lawrence.
Well, Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah.
Kalila is nearly fully automated now. Now, if you do a tour with a manager at Kalila, as he's walking you around, and if you say to him, some people say to us that we're just one man with a button, that makes me so bloody angry, because we've got 3 shifts. There's 3 men with a button.
Yeah.
But but the point is, guys, it's a question though for tonight, but to think about. Is the onward spread of technology, even in the Scotch whisky business, is it taking the soul out? Because in that talk I was telling you about earlier at the Open University in London, the University College London, Georgie Crawford, the manager at Lagavulin, said that every distillery has got 1,000 quirks because the guys who work there have been there forever. And they do things a certain way and they hand that down to the new guys coming in. So 65-year-old Jimmy hands it down to 59-year-old Hamish, you know what I mean? So, but will that still be the case? So it's something we just need to look about. This distillery, we've did features on this in our members newsletter a long time over the years, and we've did telling how beautiful Alfred Bernard in his tour way back in the 1880s said how beautiful this distillery situation was and all that. And we've actually created lots of different flavours for Kalila, would you believe, because of our use of different cask types. But I mean, it's hard to get away from the peatiness, Tell you a wee story. A few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, I did a tasting. Does anybody know Lee Connors from the Whisky Lounge? That tasting, but he's a Geordie. He's one of these cheeky Geordies, a Scotsman who never walked far enough. Anyway, so I'm doing a tasting on the tall ship on the bay below Kalila a few years ago. So I'm doing a tasting. He's in the audience. So I get to the end of the tasting, and I say, "Okay, guys, does anybody get any questions?" And Lee puts up his hand and says, "Yes, John, I got a question." He says, "What becomes of the broken-hearted?" Okay, you stupid little cheeky Geordie. Next time I'm saying, "Him to get any whiskey questions?" But him and I have laughed about that ever since. Now, guys, we said we were going to compare the Buna with Kalila, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. I've still got some left, so there. Well, I'm struggling for the Kalila. I've nearly drunk that. I think that's my favourite so far.
Tell you what, I think I would give the Buna the heavier peat dose there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and is that a reflection of its age, John? Because it's only 6-year-old compared to 11.
Could be.
Possibly.
Are you saying Bunnahabhain is more peaty?
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah.
I've got my nose in it.
I disagree. I think the Kalila is the more
I think Kalila.
Tony just
on the nose. On the nose, I'd agree, but not on the palate.
Tony, just an answer to your question there. I was on during the Isle Festival a few years ago. I was on a bus doing a tour around the island with Lafroig, a whole busload of people, and I happened to be near the front with John Campbell and Simon Brooking, the two Lafroig guys, And I was talking to them, and I said, this idea about the peat losing its strength over time. John Campbell said, "I can tell you, John, that I think if you like Lafroig at its peatiest, medicinal best, I think it's at its best at 8 years old." And Simon Brooking said, "I disagree, John. I think it's 9 years old." But of course, they don't bottle at that age. They bottle at 10, because for commercial reasons. So You're right. So between 6 and 11, there's a chance that some of the peatiness might have gone there. But some people are saying that it was they think that Kalila is the peatier of the two.
Yeah,
John, I organised a trip one year to Isla, and we spoke to Lafroig about a tasting, and they wanted to do something different. So they said, "Well, what about a director's tasting? Great, book us in for that." So we get there, and I don't know what happened, but apparently the guy who was supposed to do it had to be called away. And we actually had one of the warehouse guys come in, and it was very funny. He said, "Look, I'm out of my comfort zone." He said, "I don't really do tasters." And I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "I'll do it. You know, we'll do it between us." And we asked him a question. I said, "What's your favourite Lefroy then?" And he actually did say 9-year-old. And I said, "Well, you can't get 9-year-old." He said, "We can here." and it was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And I'm sort of like, any chance? He went, no.
I tell you what, Tony. I can always tell a story similar. Way back in 1983, me and my two mates and 3 girls went to Ireland holidays before visitor centres, before festivals and all that, for tours. And we tapped the door at Lefroy one day. Somebody answered the door, a security guy called Big John Calder. And he was called John Calder. I added the big. So he said, "Wait, what you guys want?" He said, "What, we come in and do a tour?" He said, "Bugger off. We could do tours here."
Under the cupboard.
So we got chatting, and it turned out he was an ex-Glasgow policeman who'd retired to his home in Islay and was now working part-time as a security guard at Lefroy. And as we chatted, it turned out he knew my father from Glasgow.
Stick back in.
Not from his work as a Glasgow policeman, I hasten to add. But they were in the same bowling club or something. So he took us in then, introduced us to all the guys who don't work and chat to us, and in a warehouse, and gave us a taste of single cast Lefroy. Me and my two mates were Lefroy fans, and we said, "Oh, wonderful, John, where can we get that?" He says, "You can't buy that. That gets into you. Can they drink single cask Lefroy? All gets mixed in, you know, it goes Lefroy in. So you big tease you." He said, "Anyway, you're going so well, I'll come down and join you for a drink at your hotel afterwards, Macquarie Hotel." So he came down to the hotel, and one of my mates was a real whiskey snob, you know. One of these guys, you know, they've made it for 10, 12 years and all that. They put stuff in it. It's sacrilege. It's terrible. They should shoot these people. And he thought he'd have a ready ear with Big John Calder. So Big John came in. Before he ordered a drink, my mate started on him about these people who commit sacrilege by putting stuff in the Lefroy that's been matured for this time, this product of Scotland. Big John just shook his head. Said to Aina behind the bar, "Aina, can you bring me my usual, please?" And she brought my Lefroy 10 and Iron Brew. and he turned to me and said, you know, son, 3 distilleries in this island are closed. This is 1983, the period I was talking about earlier. 2 are in part-time working. We're only surviving because we're sending 3 shiploads a week to Japan, so they can put it in their bottles and call it Japanese. And the part of the problem, he said, is people like you walking around telling everybody that you meet that you've got to drink Scotch neat. So what are the kids doing? They're drinking rum and vodka and gin, and they're adding stuff to it. And
well, of course they are. Yeah.
Of course, they're not drinking Scotch because they're scared of it. It's good. You drink it neat. So guess who's happy about that? Say the rum and the gin and the vodka. Guess who's unhappy about it? Say the men on the island who are at work. See, so shut your gob, son. You drink it the way you like it to be drunk, but don't tell anybody else how they should drink it. No, that's a lesson. That's a thing we hear a lot today, don't we? I heard that all these years ago, and I've carried it with me ever since. And it still gives me goosebumps whenever I tell the story. You know, wonderful. So I think that's it.
Sorry, just to jump back to the Freud story. At that time, we only organised that trip because we had Big Malcolm, who's our friend who's now living out in, I think you've been in communication with him, he's out in Holland. And he was a big Lefroy drinker. And none of us were actually Lefroy drinkers apart from him. But who left the distillery that day with a 25-year-old?
That right, yeah.
And Nigel rang me because he didn't make the trip, unfortunately. He said, "Are you ill? Is there something wrong with you? What's going on?" Because I hated the stuff. So there you go. It just goes to show, doesn't it? It's something a little bit different.
On that same bus tour I was telling you about a couple of years ago, remember they had just produced Lefroy Select, which was a kind of watered down version of the peat. Okay. Now my wife hates peated whiskey, you know, but she actually quite liked Lafroig. So Lafroig Select.
Yeah.
So on that bus, I said to John Campbell, I said, by God, you've got a convert here, because that was exactly why we did it, to try and bring more people in the
of
band.
course, yeah, no.
You know. And of course, the real peat freaks were giving them lots of grief over it, you know.
Yeah, John, a few years back, we Nigel and I and Rob and I think Elisa went up to the London Whisky Weekender. And as you know, back in the day, I certainly wasn't a peated man. Nigel wasn't a peated man. And we deliberately went to the Freud stand and said, we don't like your whiskey. Give us a whiskey we're going to like. And he gave us Lafroig Select. And we both bought a bottle. And within minutes, the other guys who couldn't up to London were going, how much have you two had to drink that you're buying Lafroig?
I know,
so, fully understand where Nicola was coming from.
We had quite a lot to drink, actually, by the way.
You certainly had, because I had to stop you pissing in the kitchen of the pub and guide you into the cars instead.
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Hey, guys, I'll tell you what, remember, we had a wee trip up to the SMWS London venue. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember.
I think it was the year before.
We need to try and get it organised again as soon as we're able to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Did you ever hear that story that John Campbell tells about Lafroig during Prohibition in the States?
No.
So it was Prohibition in the States, right? So, and this is a true story, by the way. A New York wine and spirits merchant takes Lafroig to a judge. He says, Judge, look, you've got to let this in because people will drink it for medicinal purposes, because it's like medicine. So the judge takes a sniff and a sip and thinks, oh my God, that must be true. Snatches gavel on us and lets it in. So you could get Lafroig in America during Prohibition on prescription. and the number of ill people went up by 5,000%.
Not surprised.
Can I ask you, John, on your on the tasting notes for this one, of your tasting panel, who's been eating bandages? Because one of the last tasting notes, third last, is bandages. How does
Chris, this goes back to this medicinal thing, right?
Okay.
Now, a lot of people, one of the phenol compounds that you get from peat smells and tastes like a medicinal element, and it's more prominent in Lafroig than it is in any of the other Islay malts, I think. But I tell you what I think happens, Chris, is that whenever people get presented with an Islay peated malt, it's become such a big thing now, they immediately think there'll be a medicinal reference here somewhere.
Okay.
I don't get the medicinal in here.
I have to say,
everybody else does.
In the 10-year-old Lafroig, I always got that, and I still can't drink it, interestingly enough.
What?
But that medicinal thing comes across very much like sort of TCP to me.
Yes. Well, TCP is one of the big other things Tony people say about Lafroig, isn't it? TCP.
Yeah.
And they say it about Ardbeg as well, and something like Lagavulin. I'm just not getting it here. But I think there's a tendency, if you've drank peated whiskey for a long time, there's almost an assumption, you're almost looking for it. You know
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's like a preconceived idea, isn't it?
Sure.
Because it's a peated whiskey, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's very often not there.
I don't think it's there here tonight.
No, it's not tonight, not at all. No. I was just referring back to.
Yes, absolutely, Tony, absolutely.
I'm saying, even now, the Lafroig I do tend to pick up a little bit. but I don't in any of the others. I mean, this Kahila's got none of that about it at all.
No, I don't think so.
Beautiful dram. Again, my tasting notes are buy one.
You got to golf tomorrow. I've got a lift.
So, Chris, does that answer your question? Or?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily specifically. It's more of like a medicinal, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get that.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't get bandages either, because what do bandages smell of? Nothing. No, they don't smell of anything until you did something with them.
No, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, so you're as well putting blooming Hesse and wool or something there, you know. But so what we're getting at, Chris, is that there is a tendency that there is the phenolic quality of peat can give you a big medicinal element. And people talk about it in different. First aid boxes, another one you'll get.
Yeah.
First aid boxes, bandages, dentist waiting rooms, that kind of thing, you know.
That's the smell of fear.
John, I actually wanted to go back one whiskey. I wanted to go back to the Glenmorangie.
Yeah.
Now I know there was what to me felt like a bit of a mixed reception about this one, but I actually wanted to say that I quite enjoyed this one. I felt like it was quite a light, floral, delicate whiskey, and I quite enjoyed it. And I can see what Tony's getting at, which is, you know, you mentioned an old whiskey, and people kind of already in their head they've got that idea that this is going to be the best whiskey of the night, or this is going to be such a masterpiece that I have to focus on. But I think actually that putting this after the beer break, kind of cleansing the palate, I think I actually really enjoyed it. I think it kind of had a really good spot
good
tonight, and I quite enjoyed it actually.
Well, that is really good to hear, Aidan. I think it was a lovely joint. Let me tell you this. What I think is this: is that you take any one of these five, okay? If you've got a wide enough palate and perception spectrum, you can think every one of these whiskies is a great dram.
Yeah, good night.
But drank individually, okay? So when you get them together, people's palates and nose are going to react differently against each other, you know. So sometimes you might think that when you get to a 24-year-old, the fourth in the list, and we've talked about this earlier, maybe I wish I'd had that before, or on its own, you know. It's one of those things, it's one of those experiences, Aidan, but it's a good way. This is one of the most popular things on our list. 35.
Sorry, I don't think it's a bad. You know, it's not a bad whiskey at all. It's a nice whiskey. It's just, for me, I think I didn't get the benefit of it, because I think for me, I would have rather have tasted that a bit earlier on. And I don't know. I mean, I'll know when I try it with the second pack I've got tomorrow, because I will try it first before I try anything else. And maybe that makes a difference, and maybe that won't. I mean, I don't.
Sure,
absolutely. I see what you mean, because like I said, it was a very delicate whiskey. So I definitely see what you mean by that, Tony.
I just think for me, it kind of, you know, when you were talking about, it's just the butter and the toffee and all that, I wasn't getting any of that. I was like, this is a really nice dram, but like, I'm struggling to get.
And remember, Tony, I think you have to. I mean, I'm always telling people that this tasting note is the result of maybe 6 or 8 people sitting round a table, all chipping in what they think it's.
I agree, John.
So like I've said through this, I'm not getting some of this. If I was on this tasting panel, I wouldn't have got some of this. I might have got some of the other things. But no one person is going to get all of this stuff. It's impossible, you know.
No, I agree. But what I tend to do, me personally, if you say to me this is a bourbon, cast, or sorry, and a sherry cast, I tend to know already what to expect. Yeah. What I was thinking while I was tasting the Glen Moray was that I'm not really getting it. I'm not saying that there wasn't there, but I wasn't really getting. In fact, I tell you, if I'm being really honest, what I was thinking was, this is very nice, but actually it's not doing much for me at all.
Tony,
it's a nice drink. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to sit there and feed me that all night, I'll drink it.
Tony, that was brilliant what you just said there. You said that as an SMWS member, drinking SMWS bottles, you get an idea for what you can expect.
Oh,
from,
definitely.
And that is exactly so when you get that appreciation, you're still going to get caught out sometimes. We're all going to get caught out sometimes.
Of course.
But it also means that when you go to a proprietary bottle, which is a mix of different types of cask, you can almost suss out which flavours come from which type of cask.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. It's exactly the point.
John, on that note then, somebody on the call tonight has 3 different bottlings of a 6-year-old Bunnahabhain. And I want to know, has he made his mind up yet?
So what was that one, mate?
Right.
I haven't tested them all yet, Mike.
Right. Kim
I see. Yeah.
3 different bottlings of 6-year-old Bunnahabhains. So he's got the Bunnahabhain from tonight, and then he's got the next Society bottling Bunnahabhain, and he's got an independent from, who was that one from, Kim?
The Whiskey Barrel.
Yeah.
And
so you haven't done that comparison tasting yet?
Yeah, they're all 6-year-old. They're all single cask.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah. Good.
So, Kim, I'm waiting for your tasting notes.
I thought, hey, Mike, I thought you were going to say we're all waiting for the invite round.
Yeah. You know what? That goes without saying.
Hey, Kim, how come you managed to get a bottle of the one we had tonight then?
No, he hasn't got. He's just the sample.
Oh, I see. Oh, he got me all excited again then.
This is the size of the bottle I got.
Okay, yeah. Just checking, mate. Just checking.
Is Nigel still?
Don't forget, you're just round the corner from me.
Yeah, don't forget I've got one of your bottles.
I know you have, mate. I know you have. Yeah.
I'd be interested, Nigel. How did you rate the drams, 1 to 5?
To me?
No, Nigel.
I think
because he was on a different tasting, wasn't he?
He has got him.
Let me tell you this. Okay, I actually enjoyed all of them. So, in preference, here's a strange thing. So the pitted one, which was 122, 31. Number 1.
Crofting game.
It's called. Followed by the Longmorn. Funny enough.
They're all long,
7.
3 of them are Longmorn, Nige.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, but they are called different names.
Yeah.
Okay. Followed by everything else in whatever order you want to put them in. And now I'm drinking this Springbank. So there you go. Thanks, John. That was brilliant.
Yeah, very good.
Really good fun.
Nigel, thank you for sticking with it. We never had the same bloody drams.
And we said that we would, you offered wanted, and we said we wouldn't abuse that. I think we should have abused it more.
Yeah, it's a great evening, John.
Really
always interesting to listen to you talk, mate. Always interesting.
John, don't feel too sorry for him because of my mistake of having ordered a pack as a member and then getting a pack as a member of this society. I did offer Mr. Crew a tasting pack for tonight, and he said, "Don't bother, I just make do." So don't be too sorry for him.
Well, he's changed his mind now, Mike. So
What I want to know, Tony, is why he didn't buy all of us a tasting pack.
Oh, that was a sort of a mate's thing. It was like one of those
all right. Oh, so I'm not a mate anymore. Okay.
Of course you are.
I'll bear that in mind.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
Hey guys, I can't
You can come round when I buy the bottles.
I can't end without telling you this. Back in the, I can't remember which one it was tonight, but back in the time when one of them was made or distilled, in our newsletter that month, we used to, it must be the 24-year-old, we used to have our members send in letters and stuff like that, we'll ask questions and stuff. This particular member wrote in a wee poem one day, and his wee poem went like this. He said, remember in Scotland, the word want is sometimes pronounced as want, okay? No need, because, Scottish slang. He said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, as long as there's whiskey in Glen Grant. When there is no more to pour, we'll up the line to Craigenmore. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, John. Thanks very much.
Listen, John, take care now.
Great to see you guys. I hope we could do
Yeah,
it.
John. Let's try and get that visit sorted out at some point, John. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right, take it easy,
Cheers.
Chris,
thanks tomorrow, Tony, about that bottle.
Thanks, boys.
Bye-bye, everyone. Good night. God bless. All right, John, take care now.
Guys.
Bye. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Chris and Adrian.
Take care. Bye now.
Cheers, John.
Take care. See you, Chris. Take care now.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon, mate.